In today's video, I'm going to be going through 10 quirks that I found quite interesting in the 2025 AFL fixture. This is probably the most change we've seen to a fixture layout in a long time. So there are quite a few things that I've picked up on that I haven't really seen before or that I found intriguing. If you do enjoy, please hit the like button and subscribe if you are new to not miss a massive 2025. And let's get stuck into it. Number 1, the Marvel Stadium doubleheader. In round 11 on the Saturday 24th of May, we see something that we've not seen before, pretty much outside of gather rounds. In the past 2 gather rounds, we've had doubleheaders at the Adelaide Oval, and that has been quite a norm. But just in a regular round, we've not seen a doubleheader at the same ground on the same day. I can't even remember the last time or if it's even happened. On the Saturday, we kick off the early game at Marvel Stadium between Carlton and Greater Western Sydney. After that, it's at the MCG between Hawthorn and Brisbane. And after that, there's another game at Marvel between North Melbourne and Collingwood. So if you wanted to, you could go from Marvel to the G, back to Marvel, or you could just stay at Marvel for the entire day and get 2 games of AFL football. I think it's a really good chance to expose 2 smaller clubs in GWS and North Melbourne to 2 bigger crowds and fan bases like Collingwood and Carlton. It also helps it's a North Melbourne home game, and they will be getting the revenue from all the Collingwood fans packing into Marvel. That could end up being a sellout on a Saturday night. I think it's a good initiative by the AFL. They've done it in gather round and it worked well. I don't see a reason why they shouldn't attempt it, at least in the regular season, especially in a footy mad state such as Victoria. I think it should be a success. Interesting to see how it goes. I thought it was quite an interesting quirk I picked up on. Number 2, North at home in WA. North Melbourne in round 13 and 14 will be taking a 2-week road trip over to Western Australia, with the Tassie team coming into the competition later this decade. North need to find a new deal. They've been playing 4 games a year in Tassie for the past 10 years or so. And now they need to find somewhere else to earn some money, because they're not the most financially stable club in the world, and they do still want to sell some games off. And this deal works so well for all of North Melbourne, Fremantle and West Coast. In round 13, they host a Sunday game at Hands Oval in Bunbury for the first time ever a game's been played there. And in round 14, there is a game being hosted by the Roos against the Dockers at Optus Stadium on Saturday night. So while for the next couple years, there'll be 2 games in WA and 2 games in Tassie as a part of their deal, after that, there'll be 2 games in WA, and those 2 Tassie games will be returning to Melbourne. So the deal works fantastically for everyone. North Melbourne get to return 2 home games back to Melbourne. With the game in Bunbury, that promotes tourism in WA Southwest, which was a massive part of the deal on the WA side of things, considering you can get a direct flight from Perth to Busselton, which just makes the whole process so easy. That's what they're trying to promote. And also with the travel issues that Fremantle and West Coast have been raising with the AFL in the past few years, this basically gives both teams a month block in Perth. It gives them an extra home game each, and it works so well from every single side. It's a good deal all around for the AFL. Number 3, Saturday night out, Sunday night in. The landmark game on every footy fan's weekend is the Saturday night game. You end your working week with a Friday night game, and then on the weekend, everyone tunes in to the Saturday night blockbuster that the AFL usually schedules. However, they are moving away from that. There will be no Channel 7 broadcasted, or very limited Channel 7 broadcasted, nationally televised Saturday night games in 2025. For example, you take a look at gather round in round 5, there is a standalone Saturday night game between Melbourne and Essendon. However, that's a Fox footy game. That is not a primetime game. Whereas you look at the Sunday, there is a 6:50 start in South Australia. Port Adelaide vs Hawthorn, the Channel 7 primetime Sunday night fixture. That's the way the AFL are trying to move. They trialled it in the past few years with the King's Birthday Eve game between Carlton and Essendon, I believe, and it's worked really well. And that's the direction they're going in with this new broadcast deal. Number 4, double primetime on Anzac Day. If we go all the way back to 2022, the AFL have a history of scheduling 2 games on Anzac Day. In 2022, it was a Monday. Hawthorn and Sydney played the early game at UCATT as a Fox footy broadcast, followed by the primetime Essendon Collingwood game. On Thursday this year, Essendon and Collingwood headlined Anzac Day, followed by a later game between the Giants and the Lions. However, in 2025, they're doing the same thing. Essendon and Collingwood start Anzac Day, and the Friday night game is the Dockers and the Crows, which will also be broadcasted on Channel 7. So this is the second straight year they've done this. They've had a doubleheader of Channel 7 nationally broadcasted games. They're trying to make this a bit of a landmark thing, have a doubleheader of primetime football on Anzac Day. I think they're trying to make sure the audiences don't just piss off after the Essendon and Collingwood game, and they stick around for a bigger audience on the second game. I like what they're doing, the AFL, by having a doubleheader of primetime fixtures on Anzac Day, and I think it could become a bit of a landmark occasion as they're trying to do this 2 years in a row now. Number 5, the gather round schedule shake-up. Speaking as someone who's attended the first 2 gather rounds and is attending the one next year, this makes zero sense logistically. Thursday night standalone, Adelaide Geelong, all good. Friday, they don't have a doubleheader like they had in 23 and 24. the last 2 years they've had an early game at Norwood Oval on the Friday. The second game's at the Adelaide Oval. It works really well. You can go to Norwood Oval. You might have to leave a bit early, but you can get to the second game at the Adelaide Oval. It works really well if you want to get to as many games as possible. Instead, they've got the standalone Friday game this year at the Adelaide Oval, and then they have just crammed a bunch of fixtures into the Saturday. It starts with the early game at the Barossa, which is about 2 hours away, North Melbourne versus Gold Coast, and at the exact same time, there is a game 2 hours away at the Adelaide Oval between Carlton and West Coast. So you've put two tiny fan bases in the Barossa at the exact same time as two massive fan bases at the Adelaide Oval. That is completely killing the prospect of getting fans down to the first ever game of the Barossa between the Roos and the Suns. Two minuscule fan bases. The neutrals and the fans of both Carlton and West Coast will just find it way easier to get to the Adelaide Oval, and they will not even consider going to the Barossa game. It makes zero sense logistically. And then the Adelaide Oval doubleheader on the Saturday, there is a game in between it, probably the best game of the day, Bulldogs Brisbane at Norwood Oval. It makes no sense. So if you want to go to Carlton West Coast, Bulldogs Brisbane and Melbourne Essendon, you've got to go from Adelaide to Norwood back to Adelaide. And the best game of the day is at Norwood Oval. It makes no sense. I'm not sure why the AFL have done this. Number 6, the grand final rematch on Saturday twilight. Now, interestingly, the AFL have gone with a Saturday twilight slot for the grand final rematch in round 1 between Sydney and Brisbane at the SCG. Look, it's a Fox Footy broadcasted game. It's not going to be broadcasted as a primetime game, which they do every year for the grand final rematch. Look, I get the AFL are loving the Saturday twilight. The fans are loving the Saturday twilight. It still just feels like a bit of an odd time slot for me. I'm not sure. Number 7, Rise and Shine. Look, this might be something just completely coming from my point of view as a viewer of football in Western Australia. Round 1, Sunday, March 16, Adelaide versus St Kilda. Starts at 9:35 a.m. I have never seen a game of AFL football scheduled that early. That is absolutely absurd. That's 12 p.m. local time, 12:05 local time. What on earth? And as always, in the early stages of the season in WA, you've got the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night games. They start at 4:30, 4:40. And Freo's season opener starts at 10:20 a.m. on Saturday morning. Overall, just some very, very early and odd bounce down times. Number 8, prime time arrives in Launceston. So Hawthorn have 4 games at UCATT Stadium as always this year. 2 of them, the times have been revealed. There is a Saturday night standalone game against the Giants there for the Hawks, which won't be prime time, but is a great time slot for the people of Launceston. And then there is a Friday night standalone prime time game between the Hawks and the Crows on June 13. Really interesting. There has not been a prime time Friday night game in Launceston for over 14 years. Over that mark. I actually cannot find if there's ever been a Friday night game in Launceston. Great to see for the people of Tasmania. The Hawks deserve it. I think it's a really good fixturing decision by the AFL. Sorry, there is 40 seconds to go in the Warriors-Clippers game. Warriors trail by 5. You can get a little live reaction. Green dives it to Wiggins. 3-point ball game. Timeout Clippers. Number 9, prime time given to the wrong teams. I just want to list you through 5 teams and the amount of Thursday and Friday games they've been given in the first 15 rounds of the season. Essendon, who finished 11th this year, predicted to be quite poor in 2025. They've been given 8 Thursday and Friday games out of 15. Insanity. Let's then go to Adelaide, who are a bottom 14 this year. A bit of a random team to give primetime games. They've been given 4 Thursday and Friday games, and aren't expected to be amazing in 2025 yet again. Now let's take a look at Sydney, Port Adelaide and GWS. Sydney have made the grand final twice in 3 years. They have been given 3 Thursday and Friday games. Port Adelaide finished 2nd last season, made it to a prelim final. They've been given 1 Thursday and Friday game. GWS finished 4th this season, made it to a semi-final. Consistently a very good team and predicted to be a very good team. They've been given 0 Thursday and Friday games. What on earth? And number 10, opening round shenanigans. I'm so sick of opening rounds. It's the 2nd year and I'm sick of it. I don't get it. So last season they did it because they wanted to take advantage of the NRL being in Las Vegas for their first round or whatever. They scheduled it the week after they were in Las Vegas and while the NRL was already back on in Queensland and New South Wales. Made no sense. This year the NRL aren't going to Las Vegas and they're doing it yet again for some unknown reason. Look, yes, it might be decent for growing the game in these states. I still don't get it. Stephen Curry. Driving. Kicking it out. Swinging it. Draymond. Back out for Steph. He puts up the 3. Oh, 10 seconds. Tipped out. Green keeps it in. Keeps it alive almost for Waters. Wiggins. Green. Chucked across for Curry. 3 seconds to go. Gives it. Payton. 3. He misses. Clippers win. I hate opening round.
I wear my chains everywhere except the showers. Till a man said it turned green on me, but I don't got too much green in my vision now. So I'ma rock these boys till they turn green on me.